What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. We're a little bit sunburned, but we're still here to upgrade some precons, and we're taking on the jeskai precon in this video. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and you'll be supporting the channel. Additionally, you can become a patron. Shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome and Irrelevant, you guys rock. Now, let's get into this precon. First of all, this is going to be a budget precon upgrade, and we will be taking 18 cards out and adding 18 cards in. The first thing I realized with this commander, first of all, love the commander. The fact that we can essentially double up on all of our ETBs in this deck is amazing. The first thing I wanted to do, add more mana. We're going to need more mana if we're paying an additional 2 mana per creature we cast. So Ashnod's Altar is going to slot in perfectly in this deck. We're generating a ton of tokens, and we're going to have a lot of fodder to just go ahead and sacrifice to our Ashnod's Altar to generate more, mana. Obviously. And then we also are adding in some cards from the set that should have been in the precon, like Doorport Mage. Obviously, whenever we blink our creatures, we want to get card advantage, and that's exactly what this guy does. He also allows us to return creatures back to our hand. That way we can cast them again, and that's going to allow us to get another token copy of that creature off of our commander. Then we're adding more blink to the deck, a little bit more card advantage, and we're just going to round the deck out overall, again on an extreme budget. I will say though, this deck has a very high ceiling. If you wanted to include some very efficient cards like Professional Facebreaker and your Esper Sentinels and just create token copies of that, that's also a very powerful strategy. Sadly, they're not that budget, so they won't be featured on this deck list, but if you guys want me to flesh out a non-budget version of this deck, if we get this video to 700 likes, which I know we can do, I will go ahead and release a non-budget version of the entire deck on this channel. With that being said, let's get into this precon upgrade. We're going to kick it off by talking about the additional ETBs I'm going to add to this deck. Moldrifter is amazing. If you didn't know, you can actually evoke this and then blink it in response to the evoke trigger trying to sacrifice itself, and then it's going to re-enter the battlefield and it's not going to see that you actually evoked it. So you can keep this on the battlefield for free now, and you drew 4 cards. Mirror Battlesphere seems like a no-brainer in this deck. Remember, our commander does get +X+0 for each creature with base power 1 we have on the battlefield. So in the case of Mirror Battlesphere, this is going to enter the battlefield and immediately give our commander 4 power. And then if we start blinking this to Oblivion, our commander is going to get big enough to easily start killing our opponents in one shot. Not to mention, we still have this massive Mirror Battlesphere that's smashing one of our other opponents. Stalking Leonin is super funny in this deck. When Stalking Leonin enters the battlefield, secretly choose an opponent. Remember, we're able to create 2 of these with our commander, as long as we pay a 2 additional mana. So we're actually going to get to choose 2 of our opponents here. And then we can reveal the player you choose, exile target creature that's attacking you if it's controlled by a chosen player. So this essentially makes it to where none of our opponents want to attack us, because we can choose 2 out of the 3 opponents, and then if they ever attack us with anything meaningful, we're just going to exile that creature they're attacking us with. Also remember, it does say we can only activate his ability once, but if we blink Stalking Leonin, not only do we get to choose a new target to say can't attack us, but additionally it'll allow us to activate his ability again. Peregrine Drake is also a no-brainer here. Remember, this deck is actually pretty mana intensive, so being able to blink this guy and untap 5 lands is just going to ensure we're able to pay an additional 2 mana per creature we're casting. Remember, this means our Solemn Simulacrums that only cost 4 mana are actually 6 mana, so it's pretty massive, and we do need ways to generate more mana in this deck. Aerial Extortionist, pretty cool as well. If we copy this with our commander, it's going to enter the battlefield, and then we get a token copy of it, so we're going to get to exile 2 of our opponent's things, and then whenever they attack, we're going to exile 2 more things. And remember, they are able to cast them from exile, but we're going to get card advantage every time they do that. So with 2 of these on the battlefield, we can kind of ensure that we're able to exile more things than they're able to cast. Palladium Mirror is just going to be solid ramp here. Remember, we can copy him with our commander. So for 5 mana, we're going to get 2 Palladium Mirrors that tap for 2 mana. That's going to kind of ensure that we're able to ramp out all of these creatures and copy them, because adding 4 mana to the board and jeskai is pretty massive. Moving on to the cards we're using to blink our creatures and get those ETBs, we have Saheeli. This just outright creates a token copy of that creature. Remember, with things like Mirror Battlesphere, this is going to be massive. Golden Argosy is also going to be amazing here. We're going going to crew it up with stuff like our Spirited Companions, our Inspired Overseers, anything that draws us a card on ETB or anything with an ETB, and then boom, we're just going to exile those cards and return them to the battlefield at the next end step, ensuring that again we're getting more of their ETBs. It is worth noting that you're able to overcrew a vehicle, so even though it says crew 1, if we have 3 different creatures on the battlefield with 3 different ETBs we want to get, we can shove all 3 of those creatures into the Golden Argosy like a clown car, and we're going to blink all of them. Minotaur is just another way to exile a creature and then it gets returned to the battlefield, and then remember this is a creature so we can copy it with our commander, so this will allow us to get 2 blinks every turn. That's pretty solid, especially when we have things like Combat Celebrant in the deck, so we're even able to get up to 4 blinks a turn. Eldrazi Displacer is also going to fit amazingly in this deck. Now the only problem with this card is we do have to spend colorless to activate its ability, but I'm almost positive we have enough mana rocks that are colorless to make that happen. Brago King Eternal, very simple, deals combat damage. We get to exile any of the non-land permanents we want and then they re-enter the battlefield, so just doubling up on all of our ETBs. Yorion Sky Nomad works very similar, but what happens is that's actually an ETB. So now with any of our single ETB creatures, we're able to double up on all of the ETBs on the battlefield because all we have to do now is blink Yorion and then Yorion's going to blink all of our other creatures. Pretty crazy. Brutaclad is absolutely cracked in this deck. Remember, we're creating a token copy of all of our broken creatures with Zinnia, and then Brutaclad's just going to be able to turn all of our tokens on the battlefield into our most broken creature on the battlefield at the time. I mean, let's just think about Combat Celebrant. On its own, that's insane because Brutaclad gives all of our tokens haste. So with Combat Celebrant and Brutaclad, that's just going to net infinite combats as long as we have a token copy of Combat Celebrant. Or maybe we have an Gate Instigator token on the battlefield and upwards to 5 tokens, maybe 10 tokens, I don't know. Then every single one of our tokens is an Agate Instigator. Then all we have to do is blink a Mirror Battlesphere and that can be lethal. Doorport Mage is absolutely insane in this deck. Now, every time we blink a creature, we draw a card. So all of those ETBs, you can slap draw a card whenever it enters the battlefield on it as well. Pretty crazy. He's also going to allow us for 2 mana return a creature to our hand. This allows us to recast that creature and recopy it with our commander. So we can essentially get 2 more ETBs off of this and another permanent token. All of our removal, Rose Room's gonna go crazy with this. Even stuff like a Palladium Mirror, just getting an extra Palladium Mirror every turn is going to outvalue our opponents over the course of a long game. There's just a lot of flexibility to be had with returning creature cards to our hand and recasting them to copy them with our commander. Not to mention, you can even copy this guy with our commander, right? So you can use the token copy we create off of our commander to bounce Doorport Mage back to our hand so we can recast Doorport Mage, creating another copy of Doorport Mage. This is going to make it to where we draw 3 cards every time we blink 1 creature. That's kind of insane to me. Ashnod's Altar, we just needed another way to sacrifice creatures to get value, right? We already have Luminous Broodmoth in the deck. Luminous Broodmoth is allowing us to get extra ETBs by sacrificing our creatures, so adding a sack outlet here is going to be solid. And then additionally, we're just going to end up with a lot of fodder, like extra Solemn Simulacrums, extra Mirror from the Mirror Battlesphere, and then we can sacrifice all of that fodder to generate more mana to cast more creatures that we are then going to copy. Wand of the World Soul is becoming one of my favorite cards to put in a token deck. It's a 3 mana rock on its face, but it can give the next spell we cast Convoke, and that's just going to be massive in these go wide strategies, essentially making the next card you cast free. Not to mention, the Zinni cost is an additional cost, so we can use our Convoke creatures to actually pay for the additional cost that Zinni gives our cards. Thran Dynamo seemed solid here. Zinni's 3 mana, so you cast Zinni on turn 3, Thran Dynamo turn 4, and then turn 5 you go off and copy one of your big creatures. Seemed like a solid include. Reconnaissance Mission just for some added card advantage. That way when we're going wide, we're also drawing a ton of cards. Silver Quill Lecturer also seemed super solid here. It's going to give all of our creature spells Demonstrate. This means we can copy them whenever we cast them, as long as we give one of our opponents a copy of it as well. So let's just go to the ceiling building for a second, because that's where I like to go. In a perfect world, we're going to cast this girl, and then we're also going to pay the offspring ability with our commander, so we're going to get 2 Silver Quill Lecturers, right? And then we can cast anything. Maybe it's an Agate Instigator. So whenever we cast Agate Instigator, we now not only get to spend the offspring cost our commander gives our Agate Instigator to get 2 Agate Instigators, but both of the Silver Quill Lecturers will also see it, and we're going to get to demonstrate twice. Now notably, we can demonstrate and give one of the copies to one of our opponents and give the other copy to our other opponent. That way we're spreading out their value, and we just got 4 Agate Instigators, so whenever anything enters the battlefield now, we get to deal 4 damage to our opponents. And at minimum, whenever we cast a creature, we're at least getting 3 of them, and if we pay the 2 extra mana with our commander, we get 4 creatures every single time we cast a creature spell. That's just insane. Remember guys, don't forget to like. If we get to 700 likes, I will build a full non-budget version of this deck for the channel. I know we can get there, so don't forget to like, comment, share, just to ensure we smash that goal of 700 likes. With that being said, I would like to shout out my patrons, Newsome, Irrelevant, Excessum, Creator, and Chicken Salad. You guys rock. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.